Okay, guys, welcome back to another live stream. Today we're doing something I haven't done for a while, which is the Ask Me Any Fashion Question episodes. I decided to do one today because due to recent videos, I've seen like quite a big new audience join my channel, especially of people that necessarily aren't too into fashion. So maybe if they had any questions, I would be open to answering those questions. But apart from that, the regulars, as always, would love to hear your burning fashion questions. Would love to know what you guys think. So yeah, I'm curious to know what you guys want to ask me and what you want to know about. Yeah, last live stream went global. That's very true. It did. It's kind of weird because I woke up and yeah, it was just weird. Like so many comments from people I didn't recognize and stuff. But yeah, let's see what you guys, let's see what questions you guys have. Keeping up the record for most streams at a same time. Thank you very much. I'm glad you appreciate it. Do you think the current fashion climate is decent for going into a digital fashion business? It depends on what exactly your business is. Um, yeah. What exactly? When you say digital fashion business, what kind of digital fashion? What are you planning to do? Thoughts on Kiko Autumn Winter 25 feels like a shift from his techie stuff. You know what, Sock 2? Weirdly enough, I haven't actually looked at Kiko's latest collection, so we can actually have a look. Let me have a look at Kiko's collection. Give me 1 second. Kiko Kostadinov. Are you talking about the women's wear, the men's wear, by the way? Autumn Winter 15. I can imagine you're talking about the menswear, but clarify. Someone was asking what happened. Where was I? Nowhere. I was just at home chilling. This is just what I was wearing, so I'm just on the stream because that's what I was wearing already. Not guys in the chat being my personal bot. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for botting for me. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, you guys are funny. Thoughts on the new creative director of Balenciaga? Has Balenciaga announced a new creative director? Am I behind the news cycle? 1 second. Let me check. Not that I know of. Yeah, I don't think Balenciaga has announced anyone, have they? Unless you're asking my thoughts on who I think should go there. Then that's a whole different question. But who do I think should go to Balenciaga? I mean, I think Nicolas Di Felice has an aesthetic that is, when I look at his courage, I think it's very Balenciaga shapes. So I think it could be a seamless transition. The problem with Nicolas Di Felice is, can he sell bags? Does he have a track record of selling bags and accessories? Not really. A lot of people have said that Pieter Mulier, who's at Alaya right now, is going to go to Balenciaga. I can see that. I think that would be a good fit. I think Pieter Mulier has also shown that he can sell products. I mean, everyone is making ballet flats and stuff because the Alaya version sold like hotcake. So when it comes to products that sell in mass, he's definitely shown a track record of being able to do that. Some people I've heard people say Jacquemus. I don't think Jacquemus is going to leave the focus of his brand to go and work at Balenciaga. I just can't see that happening. So I think the two main choices to me would be Pieter Mulier and Nicolas Di Felice. But let me know what you guys think in the chat. Oh, you're talking about the men's. Oh, I feel like I've reviewed that on the live stream already. If you're talking about women's, then I haven't seen the show, but men's, I've already talked about that. Okay, digital fashion business as in a digital magazine and/or affiliate for mid-luxury brands, jewelry, etc. Yeah, I think a digital magazine can work. You just have to do it in a very interesting way because so many people have digital magazines, right? So you have to maybe the way it's done, the layout just has to be so interactive and interesting to make it, worthwhile for people to be interested in your digital magazine over others. But there's a lot of noise with digital businesses. That's one of the issues with it. Thoughts on LVMH not meeting the sales expectations? I'm talking about that in the stream tomorrow. Um, but yeah, it should be an interesting conversation when I talk about that tomorrow. It's been 82 years and I still can't get over the fact that Matty Blasi is at Chanel. 82 years is crazy. Let's see. 5 years down the line, do you think AI will be more helpful as a tool for fashion, or will it have taken more of the human touch? Seeing these AI campaigns and models feels a bit odd. So yeah, I think I don't, and I voiced this when I did the stream about it. I think it was 2 days ago. I don't like the use of AI replacing models and replacing jobs like makeup artists and photographers because I don't think AI is at any close point where it can remotely create the kind of things that humans can create creatively, and everything created by AI looks like like it was computer generated. So I just think all that stuff looks horrible anyway. But there are smart ways to use AI. I think AI is supposed to help us with what we do. It's supposed to supplement what we already do. It's not supposed to replace um loads of like what we do in the industry. So I think if it's used that way, it's good. um Improved ways of doing photography but not doing the photography itself, all those kind of things. But the complete replacement, I don't really know about that. I'm not the biggest fan. Thoughts on the notion that Vaccarello has done more for YSL than Eddie? Who said that? I haven't seen that be a common notion, if I'm going to be very honest with you. That's an insane take. um First of all, Anthony Vaccarello, love him as a designer. I gave him a really good review when I reviewed the show that I reviewed not too long ago. However, a lot of things that YSL still sells is all Eddie Simon stuff. So yeah, I don't know how anyone could say that Vaccarello has done more for YSL than Eddie Simon. That's insane. That's madness. Do you think storefronts will come back, or are we strictly online in the future? No, I don't think storefronts will come back because consumers less and less. Consumers are so, and I don't know what's causing this. They're so uneducated about fashion that most people don't even consider that they need to try clothing on before they buy it, or at least they should have like a strong understanding of the sizing before they buy it. Because people are so used to, I buy it, if it's not the right size, I just return it. That's kind of the culture we've built. So the need for a lot of stores just isn't really there for most people. Obviously, there's still people that care, but for the most part, it doesn't really work. And the overheads of running a store are crazy. And so many brands now just don't see the point of it. That's why so many companies are closing their stores down. Especially the bigger ones, they're closing all their stores down. So, if anything, I think things are going to go more online, which is sad. I don't like it, but I think that's where things will go, to be honest. Also, I feel like I missed some of the questions. One second, let me catch up. I must have missed some. What are your thoughts on Gaga wearing Matiero's free cars at Coachella? So I haven't caught up with all the Coachella news, but let me do a quick Google. One second. One second. Let me go on the fecal matter Instagram. One second. It should be there. Let's have a look. So, I mean, it doesn't look as extreme as I expected it to look. They normally have like a lot more extreme looks, to be fair. Let me look at the gloves. Okay, the gloves are what I expect. Like that's the how extreme I expected it to look. I mean, it doesn't look bad. I'm not the biggest fan of the gloves, but I mean it's Fecal matter, you just expect something super extreme. So I'm not mad at it, to be honest. What do you guys think about it? Someone is saying the Delar look was so bad. Halloween DIY code. Damn, you guys are harsh. Extremely harsh. Yeah, I don't know. I just expected it to be a bit more. Fecal matter. They normally do the crazy shit. I do think it is a big gig though that they were able to make this for Lady Gaga. So shout out to them and congrats. That's a big deal. To be fair, I do like this piece though. This here, the coat is really cool. The gloves I don't care for. I think this is cool too. This I don't really care for too much. But yeah, shout out to them though. That's cool. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I will say though that a lot of the pieces look better individually than everything all in one look. I think something needs to be removed somewhere. I think it's a bit much, and that's what makes the look a bit like too much is going on. I think it needs to be simplified. I think they need to lose something in the look, but I can't really put my finger on exactly what needs to be removed. I listen to the podcast uploads on Spotify while working my low wage warehouse job, and I appreciate you so much, man. Time goes by much faster listening to the podcast. Thank you so much. I think it's absolutely amazing that you can even listen to podcast episodes working in a warehouse. Because when I was younger, I worked in an Amazon warehouse and they didn't allow us to listen to music or listen to a podcast. So when I was working in Amazon, all we had was we would listen to the playlist, and it was the same playlist every day. It was so depressing. Like you knew every song that was coming on, when it was coming on, for how long it would come on for. But I think the policy changed because someone I know who worked there after me was like, "Oh yeah, we were allowed to listen to podcasts and stuff." I was like, "I wish I was able to listen to podcasts. That would have made it so much easier and so much better, to be honest." Chappelle Rowan kind of did this White Swan earlier this year during her TV performance. Um, so okay, I'm not too privy to Chappelle Rowan's looks, but it looks like the kind of thing she would wear. It actually does look like the kind of things she would wear. Like if someone said, "Oh, I made this for her," I wouldn't be surprised. Imani said that sounds oppressive. It was oppressive. It definitely was oppressive, to be honest. Anyway, guys, more fashion questions, more fashion questions. Throw them my way. Throw them my way. Damn, someone said too many feathers everywhere. It's giving plucked chicken. Damn. Damn. Be right back. I'm about to order 3 Birkins from China. Wild. Yeah, exactly, Micah. Insert difficult fashion question here. There we go, Micah. Micah knows. Micah understands. Hi, found your channel not long ago. I don't know much about fashion, so your streams have been helping a lot. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club, Manu J. Fernandez. If you have any fashion questions, no matter how simple, throw them my way, and I will give you an answer. But yeah, welcome to the club. Recently, a lot of people have been commenting that they were never interested in fashion, but they found my content. So I think that's kind of cool if I can get people into fashion, because also I think a lot of people realize that you don't need to buy fashion to be into it. Like you don't need to be a customer to be into it. And I think that makes it easier for people to follow, if that makes sense. What do you think about luxury fashion dipping into interior design and art? I'm in the latter two, and I found it funny because clients are already being squeezed and feels like the industries are collapsing. Yeah, that's really true. I mean, certain brands, they've been associated with art for a really long time. So the likes of Prada, Prada has been very involved in arts because of Mucha Prada herself. I mean, Prada has an art foundation and all these different things. So I think if Prada was doing like an art show or whatever, it would seem very on brand. But a lot of other brands just make collab t-shirts and print artwork on it, and they are all horrible and they all look like cash grabs. I don't like it when fashion does it in an overly commercial, watered down way. I hate it when fashion inserts itself in art that way. But if it's a more reasonable insertion into the art world, like what Prada does at times, then it's fine. So I think when it comes to that sort of thing, it depends on what brand. Have you read the latest issue of Sister Magazine? Kind of weird how they included a whole feature on Laura Piana's Vicuna sweaters after the news came out about them exploiting the local community. So I haven't actually read the new issue. Do they still have the digital issues, by the way? Can I go on their website and find it? Probably not, but let me try. Let me have a look. Okay, no, it's only available to buy, to be fair. Yeah, it seems like it's only available to buy. Oh well. They've got a whole feature on Lotta Volkova. That's cool. At least it's good to see her getting her flowers. Um, but yeah, that's crazy though. That's crazy. I feel like Gaga has really just lost her it factor in fashion and music. Once again, guys, I've told you guys I don't really listen to music so much, so you guys can tell me better than I can tell you. When last did Lady Gaga release new music? As someone that doesn't really listen to a lot of music, I remember a time when Gaga was like releasing a lot of music. People were singing the songs, dancing to the songs on TikTok and stuff. It almost feels like she hasn't released anything in a while, and that's sort of part of it. But once again, I'm not a Lady Gaga expert by any way, so I don't claim to be. Do you think it's worth purchasing your grails? Been thinking about a piece for years, but I'm scared to pull the trigger. I think if you really want it, there's nothing wrong with it, so long as you can afford it. I think it's fine. Me personally, I find that my grails change constantly. So I have a list of grails, and I've had list of grails in the past. And then what happens is, as time progresses, I'm like, actually, maybe I don't like that as much as I thought I do, and then I end up removing that and adding something else to my grails. So I think with grails, just give it time. Don't buy it now. Of course, if it's available and it's really hard to find, then pull the trigger if you can afford it. But if it's something that's not too hard to find, I would say wait on it, give it time, and see in a few months if you still like it as much as you think, because you'll be surprised. Your mind might change. I also will blasé throughout the C season to now, and will Tweed be in uplifted or left behind? You cannot get rid of the CCs with Chanel, and you cannot leave Tweed. Those are two things now that are so synonymous with Chanel that he can't, remove that. If anything, he might bring like a lot of leather to Chanel, which is not a very Chanel thing, but he could kind of make it work and use the argument of this is the leather from the bags and the jacket or some stuff like that. I think he might do a lot of that, and he might do a lot of fabric manipulation because it's what he's known for at Bottega. So it looks like tweed, but it's actually leather. It's a tweed effect cotton or tweed effect denim. That's something I think he might do. Let's see. Thoughts on the videos of Chinese manufacturers exposing luxury brands? So I think because obviously I made a video and people are misconstruing things that I say in videos as always. However, I think it's good overall that people are educated, that a lot of things are made in China that people maybe didn't know otherwise. However, I think because most of the people, I'm not just saying this because I work in the fashion industry and I have all this knowledge, blah, 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 but most of the people covering the topic don't have anything to do with fashion. So it's led to a lot of misinformation. I've seen people online saying that Hermes is mass producing bags in China. I've seen all kinds of misinformation. I've seen people say that, every luxury brands, all luxury brands are produced in China, and everything that they produce is in China. I've seen so much misinformation. So I think the positive is that, yes, people are being educated on the reality that, every single luxury product is not made in France or Italy, that some people might have thought. But then it's just led to the other extreme. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people have been educated, but then they're being misinformed at the same time. Um, so I'm trying to decide if it's like a net positive or not. What heritage brand would you like to have a comeback? Saint Laurent, to be honest. I mean, some people would tell me that Saint Laurent is having a comeback, but I don't really think so. Not in like pop culture and like media. I'd like to see SLP come back to the top for sure. Thoughts on the new creative director of Mugler. So the thing about Mugler is that it's one of those brands I don't really follow too closely. Even when Casey was there, I wasn't really following it too closely. So I mean, I'll be interested to see. I'm going to look at the debut collection, of course. I'll be interested to see what they do, but I don't really have any opinions on the new creative director because I haven't really looked into it yet. Like I know I read an article and I know about his resume, but I really need to look into his past work and see what I think, and then draw parallels with what Casey was doing and see what his new Mugler might look like. So yeah, I don't really have too many opinions on that. Mugler is one of those brands that to me is kind of out of sight, out of mind, because what Mugler does doesn't personally interest me. Not to say the brand is bad or I don't like Casey's designs. It's just not interesting to me, which is why I don't talk about Mugler a lot. I'd rather talk about Alaya or Phoebe Philo's work or Balenciaga, you know what I mean? Have you been luck shopping lately? I've been to Bond, Sloan, DSM recently, all complete ghost towns with so much stuff. How do they make money? It's actually confusing. I haven't been to central London in a while, actually. So I maybe I need to go to see what the temperature is. But yeah, the retail shopping space right now is just not great. It's not great at all. Let's see. Do you think all this AI stuff in luxury fashion is getting worse and worse? Might start some tiny version of arts and craft. I think that normally happens. Most movements come out of frustration based on a past movement failing them. So I think we're going to see more and more independent designers who are fighting against the horrible quality of these luxury brands and the horrible practices in the fashion industry. I think that's why there are so many sustainability advocates now and people really fighting against the system. I think we're going to see more of that as time progresses, to be honest. So if anything, I think that that's actually normally when a revolution happens. Stuff has to be so bad before people are like, okay, now we need a revolution. If everything is good, there's not going to be a revolution. If there are no issues, there's never going to be a revolution. Okay, someone said Lady Gaga just released an album a few weeks ago. Okay, I did not hear of that. Me and my friend were firstly kind of burnt out with the chair changes in fashion, but what will Blasi do it? Chanel tweed or no tweed, CC's or no CC's, Palais de Tokyo or no, more diversity. Okay, I'm behind on the comments, but I answered this. Basically what I think he'll do. Okay, someone is saying Lady Gaga is probably still the best dressed female artist. Is she? I think that's debatable. I think that's debatable. Let me see if I can catch up. You mentioned you don't buy luxury. Where do you buy your good quality clothing? Can you recommend smaller brands for USA/Canada people? What do you think of Essence? Okay, so I've mentioned this before, but normally how I shop for clothing, because I always say that, like, first of all, who the hell can afford luxury retail? Not me. So when I buy luxury, I normally buy it one way or another. So full disclosure, first of all, I get sent things. I have a good relationship with certain brands. So if I request for certain things, they might sell it, they might not, depending on how they're feeling. So that's one thing. When it comes to brands that I wear a lot, like Yoji or Rick or Andy, those kind of brands, I have been covering Andy for a really long time. So I've built relationships with, people that work at the brand. people that stock the brand. So I can actually buy Andy for wholesale price. I can buy Rick Owens for wholesale price. I can buy Yoji for wholesale price, which is why I don't pay retail. So that's how I normally buy those brands that are really expensive. That's how I can afford it. I'm trying to think, what other brands do I buy? I sometimes pay retail here and there if I really like it. Recently, there was the Palace and Vivienne Westwood collab, and I bought the like bondage jacket. I bought that for retail, and it was really expensive, but that's like a one-off. I barely buy stuff for retail like that. So that's normally how I shop. I buy a lot of secondhand. When I'm in Antwerp, I buy a lot of secondhand, especially because Antwerp has really amazing secondhand goods there. So I bought like an Issey Miyake tie secondhand. I bought an Arndeminimista waistcoat secondhand in Antwerp. So those are normally the places that I shop, to be honest. But I never buy like Gucci retail, like Dior retail. I don't really shop like that. Let me see. Damn, I'm so behind of the comments. Let me, if I skip your comments, um, just comment again. What do you think gives value to a clothing piece aside from logo and materials? E.g., history matters a lot in watches, but doesn't matter in truly high-end fashion. Yes, I think history matters a lot. So one of the reasons I love the Gucci horsebit loafers is because of the history and what the history of the loafers represent. The reason why I haven't bought it is because the quality is atrocious. So I think the history matters, but the quality also has to be there. I think the thing about watches is that a lot of people buy watches for the history, but also people buy watches for the flex of it. But the thing about watches, at least they still last long. Most watches, you can dive in them, you can dive in water, you can do whatever, you can wear it for years, you can pass it down to your child. And that is how clothing used to be. Old clothing was like so well made that even now people are still buying clothing made in the 70s second hand. But clothing made today, it just disintegrates, it just goes bad. So I think the history is good, but I don't believe that that can account for most. I think most of clothing's merit has to come from how well it's made. If we're not talking about how well it's made as a starting point, then what are we talking about, to be honest? So I think that's where clothing is a bit different from other things, because other things don't disintegrate the way that badly made clothing disintegrates. Um, Let me see. Okay, let me skip. Someone asked me earlier when I'm going to collaborate with AZ. You know what? I'll message AZ and see if he wants to do a collab stream. Because I'm a fan of AZ. I like his channel. I watch his live streams all the time. All the time, all the time. Let's see. Josh said, I'm a fashion design student in London. And with the recent news on the fashion industry, with Chinese manufacturers exposing European brands, and the cancellation of what London Fashion Week, will I have a job in the future? Oh shit. Yes. Uh, the the fashion industry is bigger than it's ever been before. The money that these brands are making is more than they've ever made in their history for most of them. Obviously, that's not the case with Gucci, but across the board in fashion, it's the highest it's ever been for a very long time. So, that being said, all this money is going somewhere. Unfortunately, it's going into the hands of very few. It's going into the pockets of LVMH and Kering and Richemont. However, it means that there is still a job because there's still money and there's a demand for the jobs to, service a job to make this money. So you could work at one of the brands. But in terms of starting your own brand, I think it's a lot more difficult now than it has ever been because of who you're competing against. And I never suggest, I always tell design students, never start a brand outside of school. Go and work for a designer, learn how production is done, learn who their button suppliers are, who their zip suppliers are. Why do they use those button suppliers? Why do they use those zip suppliers? Learn about different problems with certain designs and how you can levy those, learn about why doesn't this designer normally use this type of silk? Oh, it's because this, wears out easily. Why do they use this kind of lining? Like, learn all these skills, learn how, what does the team look like? What does the accountant do? What is their day to day? What does the marketing team do? What kind of software does the marketing team use, so that when I have a brand, I know what software to pay for, and I know when I'm hiring people, I know kind of what skills people should have. So I definitely think you still have a job. It's just, if you wanted to start a brand, it's probably a bit more difficult, but there are jobs in fashion. There are jobs. Let's see. I love combining personal style with my favorite brands that I feel most engaged with for their heritage or value, for sure. At what point did you decide to go to school for fashion journalism? Um, Actually, funny enough, so outside of just me wanting to go to CSM anyway and become a better writer, I was actually part of the reason why I went to CSM. I'm not sure if I've said this before, but I was actually working in a job and I couldn't get promoted because I didn't have a fashion degree. So part of me going to fashion school was also because it was like, I don't ever want to be in a job in the future and having a piece of paper is stifling my ability to progress. So that was part of it. But also, I wanted to be a better writer, learn about fashion, be taught by industry professionals, and all of that. But that was part of the reason. I think that point, in addition to all the other factors, was just like, yep, I'm applying to CSM. That was kind of why. Just checking in. Did you go to the gym at 2 to 3 a.m. again? Dedicated. I went to the gym at 4 a.m. So not as early, but I still, yeah, I did go to the gym at city o'clock. um, okay, let me catch up. Let me catch up. I'm dubbing down on this question for the chat. If we want to get into fashion consulting, how do we do it? So how I did it is I had certain connections with certain brands. So what it is I see certain things that brands do. Maybe like there's an improvement in marketing that I think they can make. There's an improvement in the way that they communicate. There's an improvement business wise that I think they could do. So I just suggest things. And when you start suggesting things and people are making money based off of your suggestions, people then start paying you to make even more suggestions. And that's really how you start consulting. So I'll give you an example of like one thing that I did, right? So one of my mentors is head of business for Fred Perry. And I once told him, why don't you guys stock at LNCC? Like, I feel like you guys, based on the kind of people that go into LNCC, I just think it would work. And based off my suggestion, he had a meeting with LNCC, and now Fred Perry is stocked in LNCC. So it's kind of like doing stuff like that. Eventually, you just become a consultant, and then word of mouth goes around that, oh, this person has good advice about this and has good ideas about this, and that's how you become a consultant, basically. So that's really how it happens. Some other people might have gotten into consultancy different ways, but that was how it was for me. So yeah. If luxury is no longer about elegance, what is it now? Irony, shock, streetwear. Um, I don't really know. I can't really encapsulate what luxury means. I mean, to me, luxury is about craftsmanship and quality and expertise. Nowadays, it seems to be about the way it makes you feel and about how it can help you signal social status and things like that, which is not why, if I bought any luxury product, the reason why I would buy it. But yeah, that's kind of what I associate with luxury these days. Just want to say hello to my number one fan. Yeah, Micah, people were saying that to become a fashion consultant, they need to just become your PA. Is that true, Micah? Is that true? Also, Micah's trolling in the chat. Do you want to hop on the live stream and answer some questions, Micah, instead of trolling in the chat? Also, I was speaking to Micah earlier. When someone said they saw Micah at work, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't strike Micah for a working man." I still find that really funny. I find that absolutely hilarious. How would you analyze the financial situation of a non-public brand like Martin Rose? I'm writing a paper about Martin Rose from a business POV. The only way you can do that is by asking people close to the brand. That's the only way. Like when I was at BOF, there were so many companies that we were trying to find out their financials and we didn't have the information. So we would just reach out to the people that know. Um, but it also depends on if your report is going to be public, because I remember when I was writing for BOF, there were so many figures that we couldn't say publicly, but knowing would kind of help inform the way that we write about the brand, right? So many things were told to us off the record because a lot of people want to talk to us about it that way, and they trust that we will keep the stuff off the record. So that could also be an avenue if you make it clear that, you know, the numbers specifically will be off the record. I'm not going to write about it anywhere or say it publicly. They might be more willing to speak to you, but that's kind of the only way to do it. There's no other way. I don't know how to articulate this, but what are your thoughts on the intersection between luxury and democratization? I think that's kind of always been happening, right? I think luxury last century used to be associated with high society, kings and queens, and, you know, a lot of couturiers used to dress kings and queens and princes and princesses. Whereas now, when you think of luxury, you think of sweatshops and all that sort of stuff. Because Bernard Arnault's mission is like luxury, but for everyone, because that's how he can make the most money, right? How he can maximize money. So the messaging went to everyone can buy luxury, whether you have to go into debt to buy it, everyone has access to at least a luxury thing, whether that's a belt, a bottle of perfume, a bag. Everyone is open to luxury. The only reason why they did that is to make more money. But if anything, it decimated the craft of luxury. It decimated the inspiration of luxury, how forward thinking it was. I mean, luxury fashion used to set all the trends, whereas I feel like now all the luxury brands are chasing after the trends. It's quite funny the way that these luxury brands scramble. Like they have no distinctive point of view. A lot of them just pivot based on what the trending thing is. I mean, look at what happened with Gucci when Sabato De Sano was there, and them going to this sort of quiet luxury, trying to channel Tom Ford thing instead of having their own design aesthetic and trying to build that way. It's just a whole mess. I think that there's nothing wrong with democratization of fashion. I just think the way that the industry went about it really destroyed the true essence of craft. But yeah, I think when it comes to that, it's just the way they did it I have an issue with, rather than fashion being democratized. I think fashion being democratized is good because I wouldn't have a place in the industry if it wasn't. Like I wouldn't be able to start my own independent YouTube channel and build my own platform that way. um, Only magazines would have a voice, which is bad, right? Magazines are sponsored by some of these big luxury brands, so they never say anything objective or remotely negative about these brands because these are the brands that pay their bills. So as a reader, as someone that is, you know, watching or whatever, you don't really get a true essence of stories or a true review of their clothes because it's always under the pretense of, well, this brand pays us, so we can't really say anything negative. So I think fashion being democratized is good in some respects, but in terms of how everything is watered down, I think that's where the negative aspect comes in for sure. Can we see some more of the comments? Um, Micah said, I'm a creative consultant, stylist, and Nepo baby. It's wild how these brands chase trends. Prada making a version of the Rose Margot bag is insane. Yeah, but that's kind of what's going on now, and it's so weird to me because when I got into fashion, it was very distinctive. It's like Alessandro Michele has this, Roman maximalist vibe at Gucci. You had Versace having their gaudy prints and silk shirts. But everyone, at least, you knew when you go to a brand, you're going there for a specific thing. Now I feel like you can buy the same jacket at 50 brands. I'm not joking. Like you can buy like a nice, I don't know, camel coat from Phoebe Philo. You can buy that exact same coat at Sabato de Sano's Gucci. You can buy that exact same coat at Xenia. You can buy that exact same coat at Gilsana. You can buy that exact same coat at The Row. You can buy that exact same coat at Peter Doe. It's just getting to the point now where like designers don't have a very distinctive point of view anymore. Everyone just kind of does what everyone else does. It's kind of strange. Let me keep up. Let me keep up. Do you think Demna's move to Gucci will affect Vetements' design aesthetic, since their latest collections are still very Balenciaga-esque? I mean, I don't care for Vetements under Gurram because I think Gurram is an absolute joker. However, what else does Gurram actually know to do? I don't think it's going to affect anything because Demna's not really involved with Vetements. It's mainly just Gurram running the brand. So I can't see the aesthetic changing. I think it's going to remain the same, to be honest. I don't sense any difference. Let's see. If everybody looked the same, we'll be tired of looking at each other. It was a 90s song, and I know that's why it's kind of tiring to see brands all do the same thing and produce the same clothes. It's really annoying, actually. I find it annoying. Because that's why, like, a lot of times I want to review Fashion Week shows. And I will, in the coming weeks, review a few Fashion Week shows that I missed, like Burberry and Valentino and stuff. But so many brands I look at the show and I'm like, that looks like 6 other shows I've seen this season. So I'm just not going to review any of them. So when people are always asking me, why didn't you review this show or that show? It's probably because 6 brands put the same clothing on the runway, and I just cannot be bothered to react or to review that sort of stuff. I'm just not interested. On your last stream, you mentioned increasing awareness to thrifting. Personally, I feel slightly dirty slash unhealthy wearing a stranger's clothes. I do donate mine though. Yeah, I mean, so when it comes to thrifting, I think people have like different ways that they view thrifting. I mean, some people are religious and they feel like, if you wear someone else's clothes that did something evil, it could rub off onto you. I get it. But me personally, I don't really care. So long as something is clean, I don't mind wearing like something secondhand. So obviously, if I buy something secondhand, I wash it, um, use antibacterial wash and all that. And then I'm fine. Like I'm okay with it. But I understand why people have different viewpoints. I just wish that more people didn't view secondhand clothing so negatively, because I think as a society we need to try and improve the life cycle of garments that we wear. Um, because it's all fun and games now. People are like, oh, why should you care about the environment? I don't care. But it's all fun and games until every country, the average temperature is 30 degrees Celsius. And then people are like, oh, we need to reverse global warming. Wait, who got Vetements tattoos at Coachella? Was that a thing? No way. I need to Google this. 1 second. Like I said, I haven't really been following what's been going on at Coachella, but there is no way people got Vetements tattoos at Coachella. There's absolutely no way. Wait, Vetements was offering free tattoos. No way, guys. No way. How did I not see this? No way. People genuinely got vêtements tattooed on their skin. That is sad. That is sad. And they're permanent tattoos. Oh no. Oh no. So basically, they're turning human beings into human billboards of vêtements. That's a shame. That's an absolute shame. Yeah, I can't believe that happened. That's so funny. And this is also true, as if new clothes haven't been touched by multiple people already. That's a very good point. Because across the supply chain, you have to think of how many hands have touched your garment anyway, which is another thing. So, good point. Good point. Because, yeah, even when you buy new clothing, it's not like no one has touched it. But yeah, I'm just so I'm so shocked that people were getting vêtements tattooed on their skin. I cannot believe it. Wow, people are really fashion victims. Damn. People are genuinely willing to brand themselves with the brand of a brand. That's crazy. That is so shocking to me. Like, why would you want to do that to yourself? Let's see. Crazy stuff, crazy stuff. They low-key should have paid people for advertising on their body forever. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. If you had to get one brand tattooed, which will it be? Arndemir Meister, of course, but I'm not a fashion victim like that. I'm not about to turn my skin into a billboard for any brand. I don't care how much I like the brand. I'm just not doing that. Do you know the most common tattoo I've seen fashion people do? A lot of people do that, like, let me show you guys. That Margiela stitch tattoo. So many people do that shit. Yeah, this shit, this is so common among fashion people. So many people do that, like, 4-stitch tattoo on the back of their neck. Like, so many people have that tattoo. Um, that's like the ultimate, like, fashion victim tattoo, in my opinion. This is like the ultimate one that I see so many people do. But yeah, I would never. I don't even have a tattoo to start with, so I'm not going to start with branding myself with brands. That's not going to happen, guys. Honestly, an Intrecciato patch tattoo would go crazy. I didn't know about that. It's not as corny as having Vetements tattooed on your arm or something, but I don't know. Why would you want an Intrecciato patch on your body? Why would you want that? The Rick lines down the back. I've seen that one too. That's true. That's quite common. That's quite common for sure. If I'm seeing that tattoo in real life, I'm saying, you're supposed to take the stitches off. You want them to cut off their skin to cut the stitches. Oh my gosh. Is the 4-stitch replacing the barcode tats? Oh, I forgot about that. The barcode tattoo era. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I forgot about that. Please do not remind me about. Please do not remind me about that. Oh my days. The barcode tattoos. Oh. Some people, I know some people, yeah, that used to tattoo barcodes, and if your phone hovers around the barcode, it opens up their Instagram. And I was always like, so what happens when you change your Instagram name, or like what happens if you lose access to that Instagram account, and then you just have this Instagram barcode tattooed on your body, and when people hover over it, it just hovers into it just says not available. Like not the barcode tats. I forgot about that. Can you get Must Be Margella on a stream? You know what? I'll write that down. Must Be Margella. I don't know if she would want to do it, but hey, no harm in trying. There's no harm in trying, guys. I do actually want to reach out to more guests to do like collab streams. So comment down below who you guys would want to see if I did like a collaboration stream, or even just like a stream where I'm interviewing the person. Who would you guys want to see on the streams? What do I think about Peter Doe's tattoo? Doesn't Peter Doe have one of those like line tattoos that people are talking about? I don't find the line tattoos to be that bad, to be fair. I do think the four stitch tattoos are very corny. I think the barcodes are just as corny, but yeah, the rest are not too bad. Luke is saying Judith. I highly doubt she'd want to do it, but I'll reach out and see what she says. For anyone questioning whether they still have a future in fashion, just remember Philip Plein still makes clothes. Oh my gosh. Okay, people are saying Tuba Avalon. Tuba's amazing. She'll probably want to hop on. I'll do a Tuba stream. Let me see. Is Philip Plein actually profitable? I refuse to believe people buy it. Yeah, the thing is, I think when you're into fashion, and I've said this before, if you're into fashion, sometimes you can be in a bit of a bubble. So therefore, you don't see who wears like Philip Plein, but like footballers love Philip Plein. And so anyone that follows, like watches football, is into football culture and makes a lot of money, they end up buying Philip Plein by association, because that's the luxury that they see. Like Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the most influential athletes of all time, and he wears Philip Plein. So by extension, a lot of people that look up to Ronaldo wear Philip Plein. Like I know Neymar wears Philip Plein. So it's very much like a football thing. Like a lot of these football players, like this is how they dress. Like you've got Pogba, Giroud, Olivier Giroud. They're all wearing Philip Plein. So that's why the brand has that's where the customer base comes from. Imani says yuck. No, honestly, of all the sports, I genuinely think across the board, footballers dress the worst. Of course, there are footballers that are really stylish. There's some that Mario Balotelli. There's a few here and there that can dress really nicely, but for the most part, I think every single sport, if you were to put them side by side, footballers by far are some of the worst offenders. Oh yeah, NBA and NFL players dress significantly better than football players. It's not even close. It's not even remotely close. Like NBA and NFL players just dress way better than football players. Like you should do a stream with Ronaldo. How exactly am I going to gain access to Ronaldo? As someone is saying, Russians love Philip Plein. I don't really know too much about that, but if there are any Russians in the chat, can you verify? Do Russians love Philip Plein? When I think of Philip Plein, I just think of football fans, because those are the people that I see wearing Philip Plein all the time. Is Hortler mode wishful thinking? I remember his detailed YouTube videos eras back. Um, I can interview Hortler mode. I don't know if he would like, because it's not like we are friends. Like he knows who I am and stuff, but it's not like we're friends. So if I message him, if he sees it, he might be willing to do an interview, but who knows? But I think that could be fun. That could be fun for sure. Do you see any brands right now that will live up to as many years as LV or Chanel? Yes, Hermes. I think Hermes will have that same level of longevity, to be honest. Fashion seems to be more about identifying your tribe rather than making any real contribution to the art of dress. Yeah, I think more recently fashion has become like that for sure. I definitely agree with you in that sense, for sure. Okay, people are saying understitch. Let me write that down. Understitch. Some people are saying wrong trousers. I like wrong trousers, by the way. I'm a fan of wrong trousers. Can you get when you say do you mean like Martin as in Martin Magella? Yeah, he's asking what I'm being. Of course, Martin Magella is not gonna hop on the stream. That man is like damn near 70, just living his life somewhere, just being low key somewhere. Uh, uh, uh. People are saying Hotline Mode makes great videos twice a year. One for the Met Gala reviewing the theme and preparing for the carpet. So I'm going to push back against this slightly. I think Hotline Mode makes amazing videos. I can understand why my audience would not like them because Hotline Mode has shifted his content more towards red carpet and celebrity stuff. But I think that Hortler Mode makes sensational content, especially because Hortler Mode, the perfect comparison I can make for Hortler Mode is this whole China conversation going on about people, all the misinformation that has been spread around China producing in the factories and all that kind of stuff. That is very common. So what I love about Hortlemo's channel is that Hortlemed is actually really the only channel that covers red carpet events consistently that actually knows what he's talking about. Almost close to everyone else that covers red carpet fashion is absolutely clueless. And I see some red carpet reviews sometimes and I'm like, they don't even know what brands these people are wearing, but they're trying to comment on the fashion. They don't know what the inspiration of the dresses were. They can't really call back to any of the past dresses that these people have made or the past dresses that the designers have made. So I don't even see the relevance of a lot of red carpet content online if it's not by Hortler Mode. That's on YouTube I'm talking about. On Instagram or TikTok, there are some people that know what they're talking about that talk about red carpet fashion. But I think on YouTube, there are less people that cover that kind of fashion well. So that's what I appreciate because you need someone that actually knows what they're talking about covering that side of fashion. Because if Luke wasn't doing it, the only people that would be covering red carpet fashion would be absolutely clueless people. And I don't think that helps anyone. So I'm happy that Luke has a big audience because he can talk about red carpet fashion and actually bring some level of intelligence and knowledge to the conversation. Whereas if Luke wasn't doing that, it wouldn't be there. So, yes, his content is not like runaway analysis like it once was and stuff like that. But I think it's good to have someone covering stuff like that in that way. I mean, people say that about my channel, right? People are like, when you started, you were talking about fashion history and you were analyzing runway shows, and now you talk too much about business, and I don't like it. Go back to talking about runway shows all the time. Stop talking about business. People say that about me too. So I think the same way that people feel about Hortland Mode is the same way that people feel about my channel. I think it's just, it kind of is what it is. The reason why, let me actually tell you the reason why I slowed down on the fashion history videos, right? When I started on YouTube, no one was doing it. Like I started on fashion before like Understitch and before Fashion Lover 4 and before Bliss Foster and before, like, my channel, remember, started before all of those channels, which means that I was kind of like filling a void that wasn't filled. But now that there are so many channels kind of aligned in that realm, I was like, well, I'm also interested in fashion business, and less people cover fashion business. So I'd cover fashion business. So also, something about being a content creator is like filling a void, right? I think that Understitch covers fashion history in a really good way. So I don't think that there's any need for me to cover fashion history in addition to Understitch. I would just tell people, go and watch Understitch, subscribe to Understitch's channel. And that's kind of Understitch's niche now. So my niche more so now is like industry facing news and fashion news and stuff like that. So that's the thing. I feel like people talk about my channel in that way, that, stop talking about business and, and stuff like that. Um, so that's why I like Hortlamo's channel and why I'd push back against that. And this is exactly true. I can only stand Hortlamo's red carpet commentary. So true. I literally cannot watch. I cannot sit through any other person on YouTube that talks about red carpet fashion if it's not Hortlamo, because they genuinely do not know what they are talking about. Like, and it's like really bad. Like most red carpet reviews, if it's not Hortlamo, are reduced to, that's garbage. She looks terrible. Oh my god, she looks bad. Why would they let her wear that? Who's her stylist? Absolutely clueless. Hortland Mode will tell you what brand they're wearing, who the stylist is, what they wore before, what the reference to the clothing is. Kind of how I would review red carpet fashion when I review it. That's how I talk about it. I just don't review it consistently. But I review like the Met Gala and stuff like that. But yeah, the rest of the commentary on red carpet, to be very honest, is completely insufferable. Like, I genuinely cannot watch it. Horton Mode is the only person I can watch. Like, who is their stylist? Like, it's not giving. It's not giving. That's how most people that review red carpet fashion on YouTube, that's how they sound. It's not giving, guys. I love Denzel Dion, but I will say that Denzel Dion is, and I absolutely love him as a personality, but I do find him to not be that well educated on fashion. And when he does do red carpet reviews, he's someone that I cannot watch. I can't watch his red carpet reviews because it is like, it's not giving. It's not. Yeah, that's how he reviews red carpet fashion. Yeah, exactly. It's very wannabe fashion police. Exactly. That is kind of how it comes across. Yes, I did review last year's Met Gala. I did. Half of the people reviewing red carpet looks be forgetting the theme. Definitely with the Met Gala. That's the thing. Also, a lot of people that review the Met Gala don't even talk about the theme or the relevance to what people are wearing to the theme. They don't even talk about the exhibit and kind of what the differences are between the theme, like on the red carpet, and then also what's going on at the exhibit. It's just shitting on clothing with no knowledge on like a lot of clothing at all. So it doesn't make for useful content, at least to me. Of course, there are people that like that content because it's just, some people like drama, or some people are like to see celebrities get dragged. So those videos still get a lot of views, but I don't find those videos particularly useful in any way, personally. Fashion Police was hilarious. Joan Rivers was so fucking mean. Yeah. She was extremely mean. But that's what I mean. Like, it's funny and it's fun for people to be dragged, right? It's entertaining for a lot of people. So that's why people watch it. So I understand why people watch it, but I just wouldn't watch those channels. I just wouldn't watch those channels personally. But yeah, Joan was a kind of what, yeah, Joan was an absolute savage. She was extremely mean. But yeah, it's I like the landscape of YouTube now because when I first started on YouTube, also you need to remember that once again, because there weren't many channels analyzing runway shows, like I'm being so honest with you guys. When I started on YouTube, there were only two places you could go to for runway analysis. That was Show Studio and my channel, and that was it. That was it. There was no other YouTube channel you could go to for runway analysis when I started. Now, there are a lot of channels that do runway analysis, which is why I don't feel the need, especially if I see like 10 people review a show, I'm going to think, okay, there's enough information online where I don't need to do that. So I will just review another show. Um, so that's what people need to remember as well, like in terms of like my content style changing and all that sort of stuff, because I know people have an issue with it. um, but that's just the reality of what happened. I think Anna forgets the theme. Not once have I seen her follow it. I think Anna just feels like she doesn't need to follow the theme. She just wears her Anna Wintour just wears her floral dress and calls it a day. That's kind of what she does every time. For me, it was Loic Prigent for fashion. Yeah, so the funny thing is that when I started on YouTube, Loic Prigent didn't have his own channel. So when I started on YouTube, Loic Prigent existed. Like Loic Prigent would do, like you would see Loic Prigent on like Louis Vuitton, like on Louis Vuitton's YouTube channel reviewing stuff, or like on different brands. He would work directly with the brands. I think it's actually great that he started his own platform because I think it's amazing. And Loic Prigent is one of the few places where you get the insider information because he knows all the designers and he has relationships with the designers. So his runway reviews are really nice. I would say that the difference between me and Loic Prigent, and I think Loic Prigent is amazing, by the way. Like I absolutely love his videos. I think the only difference is that Loic Prigent's um, reviews are obviously going to be through the lens of a designer, and obviously designers aren't critical about their own work in any way. So I guess that's where I come in, where I can add a sense of balance in terms of being critical about what a designer says, and if things that they say don't align or tally, I can point those things out. Um, but I think Loic Prigent was an amazing addition to YouTube in terms of like that kind of content. I think his content is great. I even want to, because I watch his videos all the time. I need to watch. He dropped a video on like that Jacques Mousse show recently, and I need to watch that. So I'm probably gonna watch that after this stream, to be honest. Hot take. I really like the business stuff. Guys, is that a hot take? Is liking my content change a hot take? It's surprising to me how niche fashion is, especially since TikTok trends have brought a lot of people into certain designers and aesthetics. Yeah, fashion is still very niche. It's so niche. Like, go up to the average person and be like, "Do you know who the Antwerp 6 are?" Like, there's a video I made recently that went viral, and the way that I talk about fashion, I'll be like, yeah, because in the Antwerp 6, blah blah blah, assuming that everyone knows what the Antwerp 6 are. And there's a recent video I dropped. I can't remember exactly which one it is, but it's getting a lot of views, and so many of the comments are just like, "Who is the Antwerp 6? Who are the Antwerp 6? What is the Antwerp 6?" Some people even thought it was a brand. They're like, "What's the Antwerp 6 and where can I buy it?" So we are very much in a bubble. Fashion is extremely niche. It can get really niche depending on what your interest is, and it can be really also really broad depending on what your interest is. Can you change the background with some cool NBA dresses at least? Okay, no, not to worry, not to worry. What are my hot takes? Um, I feel like I've mentioned my hot takes in the past. I'm trying to think. What's like a really hot take I have about fashion? Um, um, I'm trying to think. What are my like fashion hot takes? I mean, there's certain designers that I think are overrated, but let me not say that because they're still active. I don't want to cause a frenzy online, but there's a lot of designers that people love, and I think they're extremely overrated. But I definitely won't tell you that. But yeah, business talks is getting more space, but this is also another thing. So this is what I mean. Like, so when my channel started, I was one of the first people doing the runway analysis thing, besides Show Studio, like I said. And then when I pivoted to doing the whole fashion business talking thing, I was like basically one of the only people talking about fashion business online. And people started to see me as like the person that talks about fashion business online. And now there are a few people that are doing it. So that's the thing. Even when I pivot, people make the same pivots. So there's nothing I can do about it, to be honest. I think YouTube is fair game. I found your channel by searching fashion history, but your recent videos that focus on business and all that were the ones that made me subscribe. Interesting. Interesting. Luke said, I don't have hot takes. I'm diplomatic about everyone. No, I critique a lot of designers very strongly. A lot of people will attest to the fact that I've made some strong critiques against certain runway shows I don't like, certain designers that do things that I think is questionable. So yeah. These hot takes are ice cold. What's your favorite non-European brand? That's too broad of a question. Because non-European, I mean, Europe is not even that big to start with. So like, damn, there's so many like Asian brands I like, African brands. That's a vast question. I don't even know how to answer that. I mean, I could say Yoji because Yoji is the first designer I ever learnt about. So Yoji always will have a specific space in my heart. But you know, there's so many African designers I love. There's so many. Yeah, that's a hard one. Top 3 countries with the best fashion sense. So this is a difficult one because I think that Japan, of course, I know. Wow, how unique Japan. I think Japan has a good fashion sense. I'll put Japan there. I think the USA, but I'm going to caveat that by saying specifically New York. So every time I go to New York, I find the fashion really, really interesting. And I think people really experiment with their style in a way that I don't even see in London. But the USA is a massive place. I'm gonna caveat the USA point by saying specifically New York. So we're gonna say Japan, New York, and third, I don't know. But I would say, at least in my mind, the top 2 in terms of fashion sense is New York and Japan. After that, I think it just becomes a free for all. If we're talking about tailoring, then I think we can add London. I think London has the best tailoring I've seen. When you see everyone go to work in the morning, everyone looks pristine. I think British tailoring is the best. Am I biased in that opinion? Yes. But in terms of just like general everyday person fashion sense, I think New York and Japan take the candle for that one. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think. But New York, I think New York have that one. I would say like the average person in New York looks better than the average person in London, like dresses better than the average person in London for sure. Imani said everyone else in the US dresses like shit and copies NYC. Damn. So Paris, I don't find people in Paris to be that fashionable, to be fair. I think that Paris style is extremely overrated. That I guess we can call this my first hot take. I think it's really overrated. When you go to Paris, and I go to Paris so many times, the average person just wears like skinny jeans, Stan Smiths, and a Lacoste polo. I think because a lot of big brands are in Paris, and because we watch films where they overrate like Parisian style, and we watch Emily in Paris and we think everyone, dresses in this ultra chic way, but it's just PR. It's kind of what Luke is saying. It When you go to Paris, people don't dress like that. People don't make an effort like that. The fashion people do, but the fashion people in Paris are not. Those are not the average people in Paris, right? We're talking about the average people. The average person in New York actually dresses quite nicely. The average person in Japan actually dresses quite nicely. The average person in Paris literally just wears a polo and jeans and Stan Smiths and calls it a day. So I don't find the personal style in Paris of the average person that interesting. If we're talking about the fashion people, the people that work in fashion, yes, they pull out all the stops. They look amazing. But if we're going to talk averages, no, I wouldn't put Paris anywhere near one of the top cities for style. You would be surprised how basic the average Parisian dresses. I think it's kind of interesting how Paris has been able to PR its way into being this ultra stylish city. I just don't see it personally when I go there. um, I don't see it personally. Shout out to the French though. They've run amok with the narrative. How many hats are in your closet? Too many. Micah says, I actually disagree. I think they dress super good in Paris. Nah, Micah, no. Because, first of all, Micah, you are around the fashion people when you go to Paris. If you just, next time we go to Paris, we're going to go to Paris in June together. I'm going to point out, like when we're on the train, look at the way people are dressed. Or not when we go to a fashion show and everyone looks nice. Or when we go to some fashion event, just go to like a restaurant and just look at the average person and how they dress. I think sometimes it's skewed because a lot of people go to Paris when it's fashion week, or if you work in the industry, a lot of your friends are fashion people, so you're constantly seeing people look amazing. But outside of the fashion industry, let's be for real here. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. He said, bro, the old people in Paris dress so good compared to the UK. It's not even close. But then, is that true? Because then what we have in the UK is the tailoring that people wear. He said everyone over 60 in Paris is fly. I don't know about all of that, mate. I don't know. clearly this is a hot take. So I guess guys, you can call this a hot take. What do you guys think in the chat? Do you guys think Parisian street style is elite? And I'm not talking about Parisian street style that you see on Vogue during Fashion Week. I'm talking about the average Parisian style. Also, this is true. This is why I said specifically New York and Japan, and then everything else is a free for all. Because the reason I didn't even notice, I didn't even say London, even though in London also has, you know, London also has very stylish people, the people that wear the tailoring look pristine. There's a group of people that work in fashion that dress really good. But there are also people that dress horribly. And because I know the average person just wears like a tech fleece or dresses really horribly, that's why I didn't even mention the UK. Notice how I didn't even say the UK. Like London has pockets of people, but no. I think the only people that can really have something to say on the average person being stylish is New York or Japan. I think those are the only people that can say. The average New Yorker in Tim's and a puffer looking upset. Like I said, Brits dress so awful. It's actually funny. No, Brits don't care about their lives. Like Brits, like oh my god, because I lived in Nigeria for so long, and in Nigeria, the culture is to dress nicely wherever you go, even if you go to the grocery store. It was such a culture shock when I moved back to the UK. and everyone looked like people would go to the grocery store looking a mess. Like they would wake up from their house being in their PJs, wearing sliders, and go to the go to the grocery store. That to me was insane. Like I was like, damn, that was a culture shock. I'm used to it now, but that was like insane when I moved back, and I was like, what the hell? Like you would literally see people's crust in their eyes, still in their eyes, and they're walking around the grocery store and stuff. I was like, damn, I would never leave my house looking like that. But each to their own. But that's how Brits are. Brits just don't care about themselves. Brits just do not care. Like they just don't care. That's funny. Brits don't care about their lives. As a well-traveled man, thank you for calling me a well-traveled man. Where did you find the best dressed people? Okay, so personally, out of all the countries I've been to, um, well, I mean, New York for one. I've been to New York a few times now. Obviously New York is not a country, but just New York as a place. Um, I'm trying to think because most places I go to, there are obviously people that dress well. Like even when I was in Istanbul, there were people that were really cool, that dressed really cool. But the average style in Istanbul, was it that interesting? Not really. Um, like most places I go to, that's just the case. Like I went to Milan, there were pockets of people that looked cool. The Italian tailoring during rush hour was really, really cool to see people dressed like that. There were the fashion people that looked cool, but the average style was a bit basic. It wasn't that interesting. There was no personality in the way that the average person was dressing. So most places that I go to, it tends to just be that tends to be the case. New York is actually the only place that even the average person brings something interesting to the way that they dress. I don't know what it is about New York that makes people express themselves through fashion like that, but that's just what it is. That's just what I've seen. Someone said it's the same everywhere. It kind of is for the most part. It is. I will actually, let me take that back. I will say that Antwerp style is really cool because Antwerp is such a small place. You notice that there are all those like secondhand shops and like all those brands and stuff. So a lot of people in Antwerp dress kind of cool because they have access to a lot of like affordable, cool secondhand stuff, and there are all these independent brands, even though it's such a small place. So I would say Antwerp is not like, there are still like people that don't dress that interesting, but I would put Antwerp kind of higher on the list if we're making a list. I think personal style in Antwerp is kind of cool. But yeah, outside of New York and Japan, if we're being honest, like it's New York and Japan, and then everyone else is just chasing after those two places. I mean, so Seoul is an interesting one. I see pictures, but I've never been to Seoul, so I can't really speak to it. But from what I've seen online, people in South Korea do dress really cool, actually. But I need to go there to verify. I need to go there to verify. If there are any Koreans in the chat, let me know what you think about the average personal style in Korea. But from what I've seen, pictures, videos, documentaries, stuff like that, vlogs that I've seen people do, it does seem, yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I wasn't thinking about Seoul, but Seoul personal style does seemingly look really, really good. Um, so yeah. This is also a thing. So something I've noticed about personal style in South Korea is that um, people in South Korea dress in trends. So people in South Korea look amazing, and they always put things together that make them look good. Things fit well. This is also something in the UK. A lot of people don't even understand fit and they just wear any old thing, and they just leave their house looking like that. You see people in Korea, same thing in Japan too. People actually care about fit, the way things fit. That's why things always tend to look good. even when things are basic. But people do dress the same. Like when something is trendy, everyone adopts it. Is my understanding of the personal style in South Korea. But once again, I need to go there to see it for myself. But I do think Seoul is definitely up there, in personal style for sure, for sure. Someone said Michigan has fly style. I've never been to Michigan, so Americans in the chat, let's verify. Do people look fly in Michigan? I'm gonna need the verification from the a lot of the viewers who are living stateside. It's a matter of having access to unique individual makers. That's definitely part of it for sure. For sure. Okay, people are saying maybe Detroit. No state in the Midwest has good style. Damn. Yeah, I mean, style is definitely subjective. Obviously, people are asking it from my opinion. So I just gave my subjective opinion, but obviously, people can have different opinions. Like some people in the chat even disagree with me that Parisian personal style is like a lot better than I'm saying it is. Damn, not someone in the chat saying people look homeless in Michigan. Damn. ATL is the reason TikTok fashion brands exist. Micah says, I struggle to believe that any state outside of New York, or I mean, so that means Georgia, any state outside of New York or maybe Georgia, well, ATL is fly. Yeah. Okay, Chicago is cool. Chicago has something to say. I think the variety in Chicago is lacking in personal style, but Chicago has a lot to say when it comes to personal style. Nowhere near New York, but I think Chicago has something to say. So that was a good, yeah, it was good that someone brought up Chicago. I think Chicago has some stuff to say for sure. But yeah, I'm still wondering about the Detroit thing. Well, someone said it wasn't even Detroit. Someone said Michigan. Yeah, Michigan, guys. I really need to because yeah, I've never even considered style in Michigan. I've never been. Neither New York or Georgia as states are packing a punch. Are you kidding me? That's exactly why you have to specify very specific cities. You have to specify Atlanta, New York, or you have to specify Chicago. You can't start saying states because everything gets watered down extremely fast. Okay, people are saying Houston. I've never really considered Houston as a fashion forward place, to be honest. Obviously, you guys can tell me what you think, but when I think of Houston, I don't really think of style that much. Like, I don't really think of style when I think of Houston. Houston wearing big white tees. Okay, think of Cowboys. Okay, you know what? If we think of Cowboys, yeah, they could pull out some nice Western, those Western inspired fit. Okay, you guys in the chat, you're cooking. You guys are cooking in the chat. That's definitely true. That's definitely true. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about the Cowboys and all that stuff. Yeah, Houston. Let me Google Houston style and see what comes up. Like what kind of style they show when I go Houston. Yeah, so there's a lot of people rocking the cowboy type drip. Okay. I like it. I like it. The hats, the boots. I like it. Obviously, some people will do it better than others, but I think it's cool. Let's see if I put Houston cowboy style. What comes up? Houston cowboy style. Okay, this is a nice fit to be fair. This guy here is putting it on. This is where this is where Ras Simmons went for inspiration when he was designing at Calvin Klein. This is where Ras Simmons was going for research trips. But yeah, let's look at some more of these fits. One sec. Let's see. But guys in the chat, especially if you're American, put me onto a sleeper city or town in the US. What's like a town that has really good style, but like most people don't know? Like, what's a sleeper town in the US? I'm curious to know what you guys think. Put me on game. Put me on game. Okay, people are saying Seattle. Can we find the US is too loud to have sleeper cities? Fair enough. Okay, the Bay Area, I can definitely see that. I mean, when I was younger, I was completely influenced by partially the Bay, not completely, but I was mainly just, just I was influenced by many parts of California, to be fair, but the Bay Area is part of it. So, yeah, the Bay Area, I can see that. But then, can you call the Bay a sleeper? Because the problem is, the problem with the Bay is like, when I think of the Bay, to be honest, if I think of the Bay generally, like I think of triple X T's when I think of the Bay. Like I think of like people driving Cadillacs wearing triple X T's and stuff. I think the Bay is cool for like street style and streetwear, but I don't think there's a lot of range in the Bay. It's not like New York, for example. It's not like Atlanta. I feel like in New York and Atlanta, there's range. Like there's people that look good wearing like suits. There's people that look good wearing streetwear looks. There's people that look good wearing avant-garde stuff. There's that range. I don't think the Bay has that kind of range the way that Atlanta or New York does. Someone is saying Oakland for streetwear. Interesting. Okay, someone is saying it's more rooted in outdoors fashion than streetwear in Seattle, so just a different vibe. That's interesting. Hmm. I'm curious to see like where is Seattle close to? Isn't Seattle like at the border? Because people always talk about like Canada when they talk about Seattle. I could just be speaking out of my ass. Let me before I say these things, I should actually like Google it so I don't come across clueless. But maybe it isn't close to the border. Wait, let me Google this 1 second. Let me see where Seattle is on the map. Okay, 1 second. Okay, yeah, it is on the border. Okay, that's yeah. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Cool. I'm not completely clueless. Yeah, so because I'm always curious to see like the places that are close by. I mean, like Portland, style wise, Tacoma. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I mean, grunge did come from Seattle, to be fair, so they've got that going. Um, but yeah, anything else? Someone said Tacoma. Hell no. Yeah, that's why I was like, just looking at the places close by. Yeah, I just know Portland for having the Nike headquarters, to be honest. That's when I think of Portland, I just think of Nike. That's honestly all I think about when I think of Portland. Long Beach, California. Long Beach, maybe. Have I ever been to Long Beach? I don't think I've ever been to Long Beach. Yeah, I haven't. I haven't been to Long Beach. I've been to a lot of parts of California, but not Long Beach. Funny enough. I remember when I used to get confused between like Washington and Washington State. Who was the person that designed that shit? Like, why are they on completely different sides of the country? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, one is close to New York, and the other one is literally close to the the other side of the US. That used to confuse me so much when I was younger. Because when people say Washington, I don't know what they're talking about. Like, are you talking about DC or are you talking about the state? Who did that? Okay, people are saying Miami has its own style. That's true. When I think of Miami, I think of like silk shirts, like Versace shirts and Casablanca and that sort of stuff. That's what I think about when I think of Miami. Some people do it better than others, though. In that realm of style, I think some people look amazing, though. I've seen people look really, really good in Miami. Some people overdo it and it veers into being a bit tacky. Of course, that's just my subjective opinion, but that's my opinion. It is what it is. Um, so yeah, people say Miami, Palm Beach. Miami's the only reason Versace is making money. That's crazy. uh New Orleans, I want to know if they got style. When I was younger, I used to say New Orleans, and then someone corrected me, and they were like, "It's not New Orleans, it's New Orleans, New Orleans." But yeah, I've never. When I think of New Orleans, I think of food. I feel like they're more known for food than they're known for style. To be very honest with you, what borough in London has the best fashion that ends? West London, if we're talking about boroughs of London, always had the best fashion, no debate. And I'm not even from West London. I'm from Southeast London. But I think that West London, because West London always had proximity to like the brands and, the tailors and all that sort of stuff. So even the streetwear in West London was more refined than any other part of London. So I don't even think that's a hard one. West London for sure. Like that's not even. I didn't even have to think about that for a very long time. I definitely think it's West London. Like I'm not even from there, so I'm not even biased. But yeah, I'd say West London for sure. Tailoring wise, high end fashion wise, streetwear wise, all West London. All West London. In fact, no, not East, not East. I'm being so objective here. In fact, I remember when I was younger, I kid you not, all the trends, even in streetwear, all started in West London. So the kids in West London would wear like Averex, and then everyone else in London, like the street kids, would wear Averex. The kids in West London would wear Bape, then everyone else in London would start wearing Bape. Like it was always the West London kids that started wearing stuff first. I don't know why that is. I think once again it's the proximity to where all the brands are and the money is and stuff. So even that affected like the streetwear too and street cultures and subcultures in that sense. But yeah, it was always West London for sure. Someone said Camden is sweet. Camden is sweet. Yeah, but you need to remember that Wiley and Dizzy Rascal were not the first people that wore Averex. They were just the people because they were popular. So because they were popular, people saw them wearing Averex. But I saw people from West London wearing that stuff before I saw them wearing it. They're just like more known. Maidenhead, that's the hotbed of fashion. I don't quite think so. I'm not too sure about that one. Do you think journalists can influence fashion trends based on their personal likes and takes? If you're a big enough fashion journalist, maybe if you're that influential, but I personally am not that influential. I think people like I'm trying to think of someone that's really let me see. I think Vanessa Friedman could. I feel like Vanessa Friedman, not like a wider trend. I think Vanessa Friedman could say some stuff, and a lot of women would dress that way because Vanessa Friedman said so. I definitely think she has that kind of influence for sure. Brenda hashtag also definitely has that kind of influence. I definitely agree with that. That's a fact. Brenda hashtag made so many girlies wear Under Millimeter and tabbies. Like Brenda hashtag definitely has that kind of pull. I remember when the boy was popular, their logo was interesting. Yeah, facts. Oh my gosh. Fashion question. Do you think what China is doing, exposing luxury brands, is going to make the big luxury brands look into African artisans and collaborate with other African brands? Yes and no. I think that the reason why they wouldn't be able to collaborate with a lot of African artisans, unfortunately, is because a lot of African countries don't have the infrastructure to be able to create, especially not at scale, to be able to make the clothing for a lot of these brands. So a lot of the brands that are based in Africa that make really good quality things like Toko James, Tebe Magugu. I've literally been to Tebe Magugu's knitwear factory, which is in Cape Town, like really, really high quality stuff. Um, they can't, those factories aren't big enough to, do work with I don't know, like Louis Vuitton and do those massive order quantities. They can't do that yet. Um, so unless they're willing to invest in the infrastructure in Africa, which I think would be a good thing, I can't see that happening because the infrastructure just isn't there yet. Someone said European brands already produce in Morocco and Tunisia. Yeah, but obviously someone said Africa, so I was just thinking about the whole continent. But depending on what you're thinking about, certain things get produced. I mean, a lot of fragrance raw materials are taken from Africa, places like Egypt. And because of that, there are a lot of industries now for fragrances in Egypt. Like someone said in Morocco and Tunisia, they produce a few things, but it's not it a lot of work needs to be done. The infrastructure is not it's not the same infrastructure like in Asia and Europe. It's not the same. If you wore Averex to school back in the day, indirectly stated "Don't mess with me," and typically associated with gang members in the 90s. Really? So when I was growing up in London, um, Averex was seen as like, especially where I grew up, was seen as like serious luxury. Like it was so expensive. So a normal person could not wear Averex where I grew up. If you wore Averex and you weren't like gang affiliated, you would get robbed. Like you could not wear Averex safely on the street. People would literally collect your Averex jacket from you. Um, so wearing Averex was not even safe when I was growing up. Like people were literally getting robbed for their Averex jackets, to be honest. So that was not you couldn't just go around wearing your Averex willy-nilly. The people that were wearing Averex probably had like respect, or you couldn't just be any person and wear Averex. Yeah, exactly. It was a serious roadman jacket. Like when I think of the Averex, I just think of like gang members and like roadmen wearing like their Averex jackets and stuff. Or like well-known rappers and stuff. It was like a typical. And also the reason why roadmen used to buy it is because like they are the people that could afford it. Like who the hell could afford an Averex jacket back then? Like that stuff was so expensive. So it was people that were selling drugs that could buy that kind of jacket and wear that sort of stuff. So yeah, you couldn't just wear an Averex jacket. You'd get robbed. Where I grew up, you'd literally get robbed for your Averex. Someone said Averex is totally New York fashion from the 80s. I think of Jerry Seinfeld when I think of Averex totally Manhattan. Interesting. Interesting. That was way before the Palace collabs. Yeah, facts. Facts. Yeah, there are lots of things that, and in the UK is really weird because in the UK you get robbed politely. It's so strange. In the UK, like I've never been robbed, but I've obviously seen like people get robbed a lot. Luckily, my size and my height, and also the fact that people knew me in the area that I was from, kind of prevented me from being robbed. But I saw a lot of people get robbed, and some people, it was so sad. Like some people, they would go up to these people and be like, I like the way your shoes look. I'd love to try your shoes on." And at first, you would see the people be confused. And then over time, you start to see the realization on their head that they're actually being robbed. And then they would start taking off their shoes. Or they'll be like, "What size are you?" They'll be like, let's say the person that's robbing is a size 9 and the person says size 8.5. They'll be like, "I can squeeze into an 8.5. Let me try on your let me try on your Oh my gosh, man. And then if you try and run away, that's when you get stabbed. But you would kind of know it. The way that they come to you, you would kind of know that you're being robbed, even though that's what they say. Even though they're asking you your shoe size and stuff, you kind of know. You can tell. What's your preferred material for jackets you want to keep for a long time? Probably wool. I really love 100% wool jacket, to be honest. I'm a sucker for wool. And I think wool works for many different seasons. So I like wool. Granted that so long as the coat is not too thick. Yeah, exactly. Let me hold that for you. That's also something they say. Let me hold that. Let me hold that jacket. What you got for me? Gosh. Yeah, you can wear thin wool fabrics in the summer, by the way. Like I think people just think of wool as like a winter thing. Wool is very temperature regulating. So long as the thing is not too thick, you can actually like wear wool. Obviously, so not all robbers are polite, by the way. I don't want to spread false narratives. Be careful when you're in London. Don't just wander around at random places at 2 a.m. There are people that will just like take your stuff with force, but I'm just saying that, especially around Averex, because we were talking about Averex, that is how a lot of people used to get robbed. It was very much like, "What size are you?" Like, let me hold that jacket. I could squeeze into an XL. It was that was a lot of the way that people are being robbed. But yeah, there's London has a serious knife crime problem. Unfortunately, it's not safe. It's part of the reason I don't live in London myself. I like peace. I like the fact that living in the British countryside, if a package gets shipped to my doorstep, I can leave for a month and come back and find the package on my doorstep. I'm not scared of ever being robbed. No one's gonna break into my house. So London is amazing, but there are also certain things about it that aren't the best. It's unfortunate, but yeah. I hope one day people stop all of that stuff, but what's it like for real walking around London? I'm a New Yorker, but London makes me nervous. I mean, to be honest, walking around London is probably like walking around New York. It's fine. Nothing's going to happen. It's completely fine. The worst thing that could happen to you on average is that you might be pickpocketed if you're in a crowded place like Oxford Street or Soho or somewhere like that. But for the most part, you'll be fine. Obviously, if you're wandering around a rough part of Southeast London at midnight, then good luck. But for the most part, it's not that dangerous. It's not like you're not just going to leave your house and someone's like, give me your watch. It's not like that. Sometimes there are targeted attacks, but once again, if you're not in London for a long time, I can't imagine that you're going to get targeted in that way. Normally, targeted attacks happen to really rich people, and it's over like a long period of time. They like find out where you live and like what your day is like and all that sort of stuff. So you don't really have stuff to worry about. If you wear an expensive watch, just be careful. If you're wearing an expensive watch, maybe if you're in a crowded place, try and conceal it. Because I actually think the biggest issue now is actually watch robberies, and it happens in broad daylight. So if you have an expensive watch, be careful. Bags, sometimes people get robbed for bags, but it's not really as common as the watches. Or jewelry. Jewelry is also a big issue. So yeah, I can imagine that being in London is just like being in New York. It's completely fine until it isn't, basically. I feel like it's exactly the same because people get robbed in New York too. One of my friends lives in New York. One of my close friends from childhood. We went to the same school and everything. He lives in New York, and he was telling me a story actually of one of his friends that got robbed at New York subway station. So it's probably the same. It's probably the same. Someone said, remember hearing about robberies near Harrods for luxury items. Yeah, it happens. It happens. If you want to get robbed in London, wear a flashy watch. Oh my god. Funny story about Brixton, right? This is some fashion roadman law. Right? So it's actually quite a funny story. So I had never been to Brixton for a long time because when I was younger, people always used to have all these stories about like Brixton, don't go to Brixton. It's like a no-go zone. It's too dangerous. Nowadays, that's not the case because Brixton is gentrified and there's like tech bros there and finance bros that live there now. And all these like people that have a pottery store and stuff like that. But when I was growing up, it actually was a dangerous place. And when I was younger, I was going to see this girl and she lived in Brixton. And I was like, damn, I want to see her, but I don't want to go to Brixton because I've heard like loads of stories about Brixton. Like I won't be safe, especially because I'm going alone to her house. So is this really safe? And anyway, I ended up going. And guys, it was the worst decision I ever made. Like so if most guys from London know about Brixton and like where the station is, and there's kind of like a high street close to where the station is. So that's where the Uber dropped me off. And I was walking to her house. And as I was walking to her house, I literally saw, I am not exaggerating, I saw like a gang of like 30 people. I kid you not, they literally looked like they were about to attack, like, you know, when gangs coordinate an attack of like a stash or something like that. It literally looked like 30 men all ballied up, wearing balaclavas, 30 men. I'm not exaggerating, all in one corner. And like I was the only person on the other side of the street. And I looked to the side and I was like, what do I do if one of them starts chasing me? Like, what do I even do? Because my head started spinning and I was thinking, I hope they don't think that I'm some like rival gang scout. Because what happens a lot of times is if you're like a single person, especially like a guy like me, and you're just single looking at them, they might think that you're scouting for like a gang or something. I'm like, I come in peace. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I never break the law, or I'm just minding my business, going to this girl's house. So I was scared that they might think I was that and like chase me or even like stab me or some shit. So I was just walking slowly, and then all of them noticed me. So I looked to the left, and then they looked at me, and then I looked at them, and I was like walking slowly, and I looked at them, and I looked at them. I think my only saving grace is the way I was dressed. They're like, there's no way. The way this guy's dressed, wearing all this like, Yoji crap. There's no, obviously they might not know what Yoji is, but just the way I was looking, maybe that was what saved me, to be honest, because they were looking at me and like looking at me and trying to see who I was. Um, and then they left me alone. They didn't say anything. They just looked at me until I went to the end of the road. And that was my cue to never ever walk alone, especially a place like Brixton, at least back then, in the middle of the night, because I kid you not, it was like 1:30 a.m. or something back then. I was like, yeah, never again. So that's my Brixton story. I ran into like a whole gang that was about to coordinate an attack. Like it was literally 30 men. It's like, what? Why are there 30 men in the corner wearing all black and wearing balaclavas? Like, what is going on? Like, why are they just there in the middle of the night? Unfortunately, how you dress, in my opinion, plays a part whether you're BG checked or not. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure, for sure. But yeah, crazy stories. It's funny, I don't talk about this stuff because I always talk about like fashion stuff. But yeah, I've experienced many things. I have many interesting stories. Watches are good if you want to low key check the time to leave the party early, but not check your phone out of politeness. I guess. I guess. Any more fashion questions, guys? Otherwise, it's looking like we're entering after hours. Now people are asking me about dating stories and stuff. That's crazy. It's definitely fashion related. You almost became a fashion victim. A literal one. Oh my gosh, that's funny. The thing is that I'm a fast runner, but it's a bit silly to assume that no one could be faster than me. So there's nothing to say that if I started running, that one of them, I mean, 30 men, let's be, let's make some sense here. One of 30 men is not fast enough to catch up to me. I don't like those odds. At least one of 30. I used to walk around Brixton with my granddad's guard dog, and those men would steer away. Maybe I should have gone with a dog or something. I think that might have worked. That might have been a better choice, to be honest. Would you agree that exotic dancewear slash stripper wear has had an influence in fashion over the years, and do you think credit is given? I guess so. I mean, you can see the influence in brands like Mugler and stuff. I definitely think there's an influence there. I definitely don't think that the credit is given because I think a lot of designers, especially in the 90s, were inspired by strip clubs and sex workers and nightlife. It's quite common that a lot of designers were inspired by that. I know like Jean Paul Gaultier was inspired by that and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe people don't talk about it because that's not glamorous and it's not glamorized. And luxury customers like to think of everything as being glamorous, and they want to think that every inspiration of everything they wear is glamorous. But I definitely think that they don't give the credit. I think many brands have been inspired by like nightlife and stripper culture and the way that strippers dress and stuff, for sure. Definitely. Luke says the difference is that those designers could elevate it to something better, but that doesn't happen anymore. Hmm. Human Youth says, especially in a lot of street style, it's very sex work adjacent. No shade, but you see it. No, for sure. I see it all the time. I definitely know what this person is like alluding to, for sure. I definitely see it. Mugler got that tech wear for the strippers. Mugler is like the first brand that comes to mind, but a lot of brand, like I said, Jean Paul Gaultier, like there are a lot of brands that were inspired by that. When are you gonna make a tech fleece ex Yoji? Who was I speaking to? Someone in the comments one time said that you should wear like a Nike tech fleece in one of your streams as a joke because your name is Fashion Roadman, even though like it's satire, but a lot of people don't understand that. So to add to the satire, you should actually wear like a Nike tech fleece. That would be funny. It would be on brand. Oh, James, was it you? Okay, yeah. That might April 1st, maybe next year might be the perfect time to do that. That might be the perfect time. If I become mayor of London, I would ban tech fleece to Stoke Division in the city. Oh yeah. Oh Lewis. Oh wait, Lewis. Why? Why is that your Avi? Is that Craig David as your Avi? Okay, Moyo, shout out to my fellow Nigerians. Fashion student here, final year is killing me. Advice, please. Just hang in there. I think that sometimes when you're in final year, because I remember this when I was doing my dissertation and I had my FMP and I was filming my documentary in Turkey and all that stuff. It was hectic, but it passes. Trust me, the time will pass. It seems really hectic now. You just have to persevere because I mean, for most people, you're only going to do that degree once, so you might as well put your all into it and come out with the best graduate show that, or I don't know what exactly like fashion course you're doing. I assumed it's fashion design, but yeah, just put your all into it and then have the best outcome. So I think just persevere. It won't last as long as it feels, and you'll look back at it and be happy that you put in the effort you put in. To be honest, but yeah, it's very exhausting in the moment. Very exhausting. Do your followers usually tell you how handsome and cute you are? Oh, thank you very much. That's a nice thing to say. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take the compliment. Thank you very much. As a former fashion student myself, it's not easy, but you have to push yourself in time out of everything. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I totally agree. Someone said thirsting on the main, let them shoot their shot. That's crazy. Hey, it's free world. People are free to shoot their shot. People are free to shoot their shots. This all good. Somebody is asking how people feel about cowboy boots. How do you guys feel about cowboy boots, guys? How are you guys feeling? What's the general sentiment with cowboy boots? And what kind of cowboy boots are you talking about? Are you talking about cowboy boots and the iterations in fashion? So let's say the Prada show, the recent Prada show where they did cowboy boots, or Raf Simons and Calvin Klein, or are you talking about more traditional cowboy boots that are made by like artisans in the USA and stuff like that? What kind of cowboy boots are we talking about? Or just everything as a whole? Okay, a lot of people are saying they love cowboy boots. They're a fan, but real cowboy boots. Okay, so not like the fashion brands making cowboy boots. Interesting. I hate the silhouette. Only works with specific styling and good design. Hmm. People are split down the middle, it seems. I want the Raf Calvin cowboy boots. People on eBay are sick individuals. The prices are insane. What are people selling the Raf cowboy boots for on eBay? I guess the price would go up now because obviously he left Calvin Klein quite a while ago. So in a way, those are kind of grails now. So yeah, I could imagine they'll be expensive on the secondhand market. Dear Fashion Roadman, now that China has reminded America that they make luxury goods for pennies on a dollar, does that mean that Burberry Kensington trench coat will be more affordable? No, I can't see Burberry, reducing the prices any more than they already have when it comes to the trench coats, to be honest. I think what all that the Chinese influencers and manufacturers were trying to do was just kind of, it's almost like a smear campaign in a way to kind of undermine the manufacturing processes in the USA and kind of use that as a way to be like, you can't, live without us. We make everything that you create. Therefore, remove the tariffs. That, I think that was the main goal of what they were doing. I'm surprised though that I haven't seen luxury brands speak out because, like I said, there has been a lot of misinformation online regarding all of this stuff. I'm surprised people haven't come out and like spoken against it. I guess for a lot of brands, they can't really speak against it because maybe because it's true. And then another reason is because they don't really know their supply chains. So they don't want to say one thing and then come to find out that they're working with some third party that actually gets its stuff from China and now they're in trouble. So that's probably why they can't come out and say it definitively. What do you think about the fake industry in the future? Because God, it's really stressing to buy legit clothes since there are too many good quality fakes. I don't really know. I think I'm seeing the fake industry rising now because of like this conversation around Chinese manufacturers and stuff. However, me personally, as someone that works in fashion, I always like to support the designers because ultimately, when you buy a luxury brand, yes, you're buying a name, but you're also buying the actual design because people that dupe things don't put any thought into the design. They wait for you to design stuff and then they just copy it. So it's also like compensating the person that came up with the creativity to originate a design and the research and development that has to go into that and all that sort of stuff. But overall, I think that the counterfeit goods market is growing, it seems, and the quality of goods have started to rival real goods. And I think the only people that have themselves to blame are the brands themselves because they are the ones that cut corners and made that possible. So it's their fault. Because as a brand, especially if you're a luxury brand, you're supposed to make the process so expensive or the raw materials so expensive to buy that if people are counterfeiting it, they still have to sell it for a lot of money. So it kind of deters people from copying your garments and being able to sell it for $5. But when Gucci is literally selling cheaply made plastic slides, anyone can replicate that for the low. So it's their fault. They have themselves to blame. Exactly. They got way too greedy and lazy. So they have themselves to blame for it. I'd be so bitter seeing a knockoff of my design. Yeah, that's why I don't personally buy knockoffs. Like, if I can't afford the real thing, I just don't buy it in general. But I don't buy the knockoffs because, I work in fashion. I want to support the artisans. I want to support the artists. I want to support the designers. But the luxury industry does not make it easy. They don't make it easy at all. Maybe this will push designers to do bespoke slash one-off pieces. Yeah, and a lot of designers have done that. To be very honest with you, I'm interested in what fashion-related monthly subscriptions you have. So Business of Fashion. I have a BOS subscription. I have a Vogue Business subscription. Those are the two ones I have. Content wise, I'm subscribed to a lot of people's Patreons and like Substacks and stuff. So I spend a lot of money on that. Um, yeah, I'm thinking to get like a Miss Tweed subscription soon, but I'm still like thinking about it because it's not like cheap. But I might get a Miss Tweed subscription. Um, but yeah, those are the main ones I have. Those are the main ones. See what you guys are saying in the chat. I need to develop a solid system for my made to measure business. Yeah, I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it. Are there any brands that have closed that you wish were still running? Oh, that's a good question. There are a lot, but I'm trying to come up with one answer. Hmm. I mean, a lot of the brands that I like that have closed are like historical brands. Y Project is one. Well, not in terms of historical brands, but Y Project is a brand that closed down recently that I really liked. Old brands, there's so many like old couturiers that had brands that just haven't opened since. I guess it's a good thing because their legacy isn't tarnished. But in a selfish way, I would like to know what a modern interpretation of that brand would look Um, like what would Mary Quant in 2025 look like in a market where I feel like that aesthetic would work? Because considering that Miu Miu is the big brand right now, is the trendy brand right now, I think Mary Quant could slap. Like a modern version of Mary Quant could slap in 2025, for example. So that's just my selfish thing. So yeah, just depends. Oh, AF Vandervorst. I was talking about Vandervorst. Was it yesterday or the day before? But yeah, that's a brand that would be cool to see doing shows again and stuff. I miss Hood by Air dearly. I guess Anonymous Club though is supposed to be like if you miss Hood by Air, just check out Anonymous Club. But it's not the same thing, of course. It's just not the same. But yeah, Hood by Air was a time. That was a time. That was iconic. Yeah, so Hood by Air came back for a bit and then it closed down after. So when Hood by Air came back, do you guys remember when Hood by Air came back? Because they came back in like with a big thing and then they just kind of didn't do anything after that big comeback. So they were gone for a really long time. Then they came back and it was big on Instagram and stuff. And then it kind of just fizzled out and it just became Anonymous Club. Like that became Shane Oliver's main focus. So yeah, they had one comeback, but yeah, closed down, I think, after. I'm not sure if they've officially closed, but I haven't heard anything from Hood by Air in a while. Imani said Bintry and Off White belong in the same circle of hell. That's insane. Yeah, the shows in Berlin are not Hood by Air. They're Anonymous Club shows, right? I feel like Anonymous Club is those are the Berlin shows, not Hood by Air. I do wish I had a Made in Pyrex piece for historical reasons. Yeah. Oh, Pierre Moss. I slightly forgot about that round. Pierre Moss. Damn. Do you guys remember that couture show that Kirby Jean Raymond did that everyone lambasted? That was crazy. That was a crazy time in fashion. That was insane. What I will to give him credit though, his some of the PMS shows were amazing. I'm not going to lie to you. I really enjoyed some of the early shows. I just don't know what happened close to the end. To give him his credit, some of those early PMS shows were really cool. Like there was a show that he did that was around the history of like black cowboys and stuff and like how, a lot of the historical cowboys were black and it's like kind of forgotten in history. That show was really cool. I will never forget that show. I thought it was really good. I like the referencing. I like the outcome of the garments. I just think that with time it just got a bit worse. But the earlier PMR stuff, to give him his credit, I think he was doing quite well. It's just yeah, at the end it just became a bit almost like he had less to say. So then he just kind of just forced certain political narratives that didn't it's okay to have like politics in your clothing, but the way he was doing it was just a bit weird. And then he was just like made himself enemy number one, fighting everyone in the industry and all that sort of stuff. So when obviously his brand closed down and there weren't any investors in sight, it didn't really surprise me because it's like he made an enemy out of everyone in the fashion industry. Also, I wish Russ Simmons' own brand returned. So the thing about Russ Simmons' brand is that I like the earlier Russ Simmons stuff, but it got to a point, and I remember talking about this in a review actually, where Russ Simmons, with his eponymous label, he was referencing himself. And at that point, when a designer is referencing himself over and over again, at that point, just you don't have more to say at the brand. Either stop doing shows until you have more to say, or the brand is going to close down eventually because people aren't interested. And then shortly after, the Ras Simmons brand closed down. Ras Simmons, as he was running his brand, was working at so many different jobs. Think of how many jobs that Ras Simmons did while simultaneously, operating his eponymous label. Dior Sander, Dior, Calvin Klein, Prada. Like, how are you going to divide attention with all those brands in your eponymous labels? Like, not even possible. I can't wait for a new brand that will cement history the same way we look at different eras of brands. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Taking a different route, what are your thoughts about the future leaders of Hermes and Richemont? Axel and Alexis Dumas are only 55 and 58, so got more time, but Johan Rupert, 74. Damn, his kids are lazy. I think the thing about business is cutthroat and harsh. So if his kids don't take up the mantle, there will be an absolute shock somewhere in the boardroom that dilutes everyone's shares and has a hostile takeover or something like that. So the kids better watch out, especially considering that he is 74. I think with Hermes, I think there's more of a family vibe to it, and I think everyone is kind of on board. So I'm not too worried about Hermes, but Richemont, I think they need to be careful with that one because if care is not taken, someone might just sweep it from under their feet, collect it from them when they weren't expecting. How does architecture relate to fashion in terms of inspiration and interdisciplinary work? So, first of all, a lot of designers are inspired by architects, they're inspired by different architectural movements. So, that's one aspect. A lot of architects work on the sets of a lot of the runway shows, especially the ones with big budgets. So, architects work with set designers to make the sets actually. In fashion, so that's like a big aspect of architecture when it comes to fashion. um, Architects are really important, and there are some really rich architects that are responsible for doing the architecture of the stores, because a lot of luxury brands invest a lot of money into the stores. So architects work a lot with the stores and stuff. So architects are everywhere in fashion, to be honest. Their impact is seen in every corner of the fashion industry. So we may see Mr. Arnold buy Richmond. Finally, he can cash out and Mr. Arnold can eventually get Cartier. I do not want Mr. Arnold to get Cartier. Please, no. 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 Please, no. I actually like Cartier. Not for watches though, not for bracelets and rings and stuff, just watches. And Cartier has like a strong heritage when it comes to watches too. And I know Bernard Arnault would find a way to dilute that. Okay, I'm actually studying architecture and I would love to work in sec design slash store design. Okay, that's why you're asking. Yeah, there's a lot of architects that work in that space. A lot actually. Another fashion question: how do you guys feel about the Enmeshment of celeb culture and high fashion. Do you like it? Is it corny? Like archive pieces at film premieres. So I've talked about this before. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I'd like that more people are interested in fashion, even if it's at all levels. Yeah, I don't really have too much of an issue with it, to be very honest. Yeah, I don't think I have a problem with it. But what do you guys think in the chat? Yeah, I don't think it's corny unless like some luxury brands just do things that are really desperate. I think it's corny when brands are just too desperate because luxury brands just shouldn't be that outwardly desperate. But for the most part, I think it's fine. There's a specific sector of architecture dedicated to TV set design. I couldn't imagine the Chanel Grand Palais shows without an architect involved. Yeah, for sure. I think it's really cool at the time, like Zendaya and the Mugler robot fit. Yeah, that was cool. That was actually cool. Yeah, Rem Koolhaas is a big inspiration for Mrs. Prada. He's also didn't Rem Koolhaas do the architecture for the interior for a lot of the Prada stores? I feel like he did. Let me Google it. 1 second. I feel like he did though. 1 sec. 1 sec. 1 sec. Yeah. So yeah, Rem Koolhaas and his firm OMA have designed several notable Prada stores, most famously the Prada Epicenter in New York City. These designs often blur the lines between retail, art gallery, and performance space, and are known for their experimental and innovative approach. So yeah, so he's an example of one of the architects that I've said makes a lot of money designing stores and stuff for luxury brands because the budgets for those things are like outrageous, absolutely outrageous. A lot of fashion designers wish they were architects. Fashion Roadman used to always answer my question. Now he ignores me. I promise you, I never ignore anyone in the chat. If I don't answer your question, it's because I don't see it. So you just need to keep asking the question. Sometimes there are a lot of questions, so I might miss one. But yeah, I'm not deliberately ignoring you or anything. Let's see. One of my professors actually designed some interior of an Hermes store in Paris, something like woven cocoon shaped rooms. That's really cool. I've loved to see it. If you know the exact store, I'm quite curious. But that's really cool though. Shout out to your professor. I studied architecture before fashion design, my teacher too. And there are lots of architects that become fashion designers. Obviously, most notably Virgil Abloh, but many more too. So yeah, someone saying spam the chat. But anyway, guys, this was fun. I mean, I've been on here for 2.5 hours doing a Q&A stream, which is very different to what I'm doing. From tomorrow, it's back to the news stories and fashion business. Tomorrow, we'll be looking at the LVMH report and reacting to that. So that should be very interesting, looking at their financial performance. And there are many other things for me to talk about. So thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. I'll speak to you guys later. If you're on the Discord, we can speak there. But if not, I'll see you guys tomorrow in tomorrow's stream. But thank you very much for tuning in.